Greetings everybody, coming to you from my 2014 Mercedes-Benz GLK250 Bluetec diesel. So for those of you who are interested, those few of you, I wanted to share my experience. I've owned this for about a year and a half approximately, and have put, let's call it 30,000 miles. I haven't quite hit that mark yet. I bought it at 144 and change, and we're at 173.9 and change. So coming up on 30,000 miles and what my experience has been. So it's, in short, it has been surprisingly reliable. Now, there's an asterisk there, and I'll go into details about that. The only out-of-pocket expenses I've had have been, there was a suspension bushing in the front that was leaking oil, and it was causing it to make a noise, and that was a little tough to troubleshoot. Now that I know what to look for, it almost looks like an oil leak, an engine oil leak, when that fluid comes out of the bushing, but it's actually not. It's some sort of oil slash hydraulic fluid slash who knows what. But once that was replaced, it quieted it down, and it restored the handling quite a bit. The only other out-of-pocket expense I had was the driver's side power door lock stopped working. That was pretty pricey, but all in for the 30,000 miles, about $1,200 out of pocket for repairs. Now, when I first got this, it had some deferred maintenance, so I did the transmission oil and filter, I did the brake fluid, the oil change was done by the dealer before I bought it, so I didn't have to mess with that for a while. I did the air filter, cabin filter. What am I missing? Oh yeah, and I changed the coolant. It had never been done. So brought all the maintenance up to date. One of the reasons I chose this particular one was because it came with the AEM warranty. Now, it did have a couple things go bad under that. I had the intake manifold replaced, which is actually a common issue on this OM651, and as part of that job, they also replaced the what do you call it, that thing that goes around the fuel filter. That's a common issue for those to go bad, so I had that replaced as well. All covered with warranty. That was at about 162,000 miles, and then at 164 I had a check engine light for a NOx sensor. Had that replaced under the warranty as well. So that's, I mean, that is technically close to $5,000 in repairs that if I didn't have that warranty I would have had to pay. But I don't count that, because that was baked into me choosing this car, was the warranty. There are still plenty of these diesels out there with the warranty on them. So if you're going to look for one of these, you want to get one that the AEM was done and that it still has a year or two left of warranty on it. Now, I've run that warranty out on mine due to the miles. I've put about 30,000 miles, as I mentioned, on this car. It's never left me stranded. Anytime the check engine light came on, it was still fully drivable. So, you know, in terms of that, reliability has been spectacular. Prior to me owning it, I have the full service history on it. It's also not been that bad. On all modern diesels, the DEF heater goes bad, including on this one. That was replaced by the previous owners. There was the injector for the DEF also failed. That was covered under the AEM warranty by the previous owners. Couple coil springs had to be replaced. This is a northern climate car, as you can tell from this snow, and it was aggressively driven in the snow and probably never saw a garage a day in its life. And the one thing that I would say was the biggest issue for the prior owners was another common issue on not just diesels but turbo engines in general. The charge air pipes failed. I want to say that was at like 96,000 miles or something like that. So those were replaced. And off the top of my head, that's really it, other than regular maintenance. They say that timing chains are an issue on these cars. That's not been my experience. I've done a couple cold start videos where you can hear there's absolutely zero noise from the timing chain. I've also heard that water pumps are an issue on this car. This one's on its original water pump and it's still working great. And I've also heard that the oil cooler can crack internally on these cars, and again, I've never had an issue with that on this car. And you know, we'll see. This is my primary driver. I put by far the most miles on this car out of all the cars I have, so I'm going to document my progress as I go along. One other thing that this car does, and it's probably done it since way before I got it, and I've talked about it in other videos, but I'll kind of go through it on this one. So the driver's side front CV axle connects to a intermediate shaft that goes through the oil pan. So there's this support bearing that rests on the oil pan. It's like part, it rests on the oil pan and supports the intermediate shaft. So when I was trying to track down the noise, which ultimately was coming from the bushing in the suspension, I happened to grab the CV axle, and I noticed that it could be moved up and down, and I determined that there was some play between the not the bearing, but the outer part of the bearing, where it connects with the oil pan. The bearing race, the outer race, whatever you call it. So the support bearing itself has been perfectly fine. It's just that there was some play. Turns out I was able to actually get under the car, and I did a video showing this, and stick of all things, a zip tie in between the outer part of the bearing and the oil pan, which minimized the amount that it could move around. So I've not had any issues with that in 30,000-ish miles, and God knows how many miles before that. So a lot of people that I see on YouTube that discover that issue, they actually replace the oil pan and possibly the intermediate shaft. A super expensive job, $4,000 or $5,000. But my experience is you don't really need to mess with that. So even though it seems alarming because there's a lot of play, it's really apparently not an issue based on my experience. So 30,000 miles now, and we'll see how far I can go with just maybe every 10,000 miles I have to change out the zip tie because it does eventually wear out or pop out. But I've found that it stays in place for a long period of time. And yay, a left lane driver. Just as I said that, they got into the right lane. But anyway, So other than that, yeah, this is one of my top 5 favorite cars of all time, and I've owned, like, I think I'm up to 125 cars now. Don't quote me on that. It's comfortable to drive with snow tires. It's amazing in the snow, very stable, safe, secure. The steering feel is awesome, especially considering that I believe this one has electric power steering. Mercedes is really the only one I've found in terms of cars with electric power steering where the steering feels precise. It gives great feedback. There's not any numbness. I mean, even in my GR Corolla, you can tell it's electric power steering, but at least for this era, Mercedes-Benz got that right. To me, that's one of the most satisfying aspects of a car, is the steering feel. And if you've never driven one of these, give it a shot, because it drives like a Mercedes. Now, I've driven like the smaller models, like the CLA or GLA, GLB, cars like that. They're not really Mercedes-Benzes as far as I'm concerned. But once you get to the GLK, yeah, it really feels like a Mercedes-Benz. You know, I'm talking about the 80s and 90s and even 70s Benzes that just feel like a tank. This one has that feel. Overall, my fuel economy, according to the display, 28.5 miles per gallon. I think that's probably pretty close. During the warmer weather, I'm able to get about 500 miles out of a tank. Lots of highway driving though, and average 30, 31. In the winter, that drops quite a bit. I'm anywhere between 400 and 450 per tank in the winter. I think the combination of the winter fuel and some other factors that I'm not even sure I understand contribute to significantly lower fuel economy in the winter. I mean, let's call it 20% to be safe. It might be 15% worse than in the summer. And yeah, other than that, yeah, all the electronics have been great. The HVAC system, the windows, the sunroof. I do lubricate the sunroof periodically. Yeah, the radio, all that. Power seats, I mean, everything has worked perfectly fine. The transmission, it did have a service done at around 60-some thousand miles, and then I did it again at 144. I think that's critical to keeping the transmission operating properly in these, is every 70,000 miles the 7G-tronic Plus is supposed to be serviced. You do need some special tools to do that. It's kind of a weird job. First time I did that job myself, not on this car, on a different car, it took me like 8 hours and was just an absolute nightmare for various other reasons. I learned a lot from that. I was able to actually narrow it down to 2 hours, taking my time on this car from start to finish. And the only issue I had the second time around was the thing that screws into the bottom of the transmission was a little slick, and I had trouble unscrewing it. And once I got it unscrewed, it kind of flung a little bit of transmission oil, but it wasn't that bad. But yeah, if you're going to do that job yourself, I highly recommend that you fully understand what you're getting into and make sure you are prepared and have the proper tools. I could go into more details about that, but that's not really the purpose of this video. So anyway, that is the, we'll call it 30,000 mile update on this car. So you know, as always, you should, if you don't know what to look for yourself, have a pre-purchase inspection done because you don't want to buy one that has some stuff lurking that you're not prepared for. And again, look for one that still has time and miles left on the AEM warranty, because there's a good chance, there's a good chance that something will break that will be covered by that warranty. All right, have a great day, everyone.